Her daughter suffers from a condition that could cause her to have hundreds of seizures each day. That's why Kate Hintz is backing proposed legislation that would drop the federal ban on medical marijuana. The legislation, unveiled by Democratic Senators Kirsten Gillibrand and Cory Booker and Republican Rand Paul, would remove the federal penalties against medical marijuana. It would allow states to set their own medical marijuana policies and relax other federal policies, smoothing the way for medical marijuana research. Earlier today, I spoke with her and her 4-year-old daughter, Morgan, about what this bill means to them. Kate, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Hi, Morgan. Kate, your daughter, Morgan, suffers from something called Dravet syndrome, and I admit I had never heard of that before. What is Dravet syndrome, and how does it impact her?
Dravet syndrome is it's a severe form of epilepsy that usually presents in early infancy. It is usually caused by a genetic mutation, meaning that it's something that she's born with. It's a lifelong condition. It's not something that she'll grow out of. And basically, Dravet syndrome is diagnosed by severe seizures, oftentimes triggered by fevers, sometimes triggered by other stimulus. And it can be a range of types of seizures, from very mild jerks to full-blown, what we call tonic-clonic, life-threatening seizures.
And also it leads to, she seems to have rather constant movement as well, that I'm sure is exhausting for her.
Yeah, certainly. Different children, as they get older, you will find different levels of developmental delay, oftentimes physical delay. Morgan is at the severe end of that. She can't sit, she can't walk independently. She does have other neurological conditions that affect her. You will find children that are less impacted, that are able to attend school. They maybe have mild learning disabilities, but the common thread is that all of these kids suffer from, most of the time, daily and very severe seizures.
Now, you, on Morgan's behalf, have become an advocate for medical marijuana, and you're behind a federal legislation that we'll get to in just a moment. But some folks are going to watch and wonder, aren't there other anti-seizure medications that are available? And is Morgan using them, and what's wrong with them? Why marijuana as opposed to those other medications?
So another thing that defines Dravet syndrome is that it's highly medication resistant. It's very hard to control using traditional anti-epileptic drugs. Morgan is 4 years old, as you mentioned, and she has so far been through about 10 of them. Now, I'm going to guess that we probably have less than 5 left for her to trial, and that's for the duration of her lifetime. So we're starting to panic a little bit. We've tried these 10 medications. We've done all sorts of different dosing and combinations, yet still Morgan continues to have uncontrolled seizures. Now, if we were to ramp up the dosing on some of these medications, sure, I bet we could control her seizures, but Morgan would also be basically in a severe state of sedation, and I'm unable to have any sort of quality of life.
So the medications, the anti-seizure medications, don't work in lower dosages, and then in higher dosages you get side effects where it's either knocking her out, or are there other side effects that?
Absolutely. The side effects are just heartbreaking. Kidney stones, liver toxicity, overall depression of your respiratory system. We were on a medication at one point, and the level was so high that our pulmonologist said, if you're going to keep up this medication at this dose, Morgan's going to need to be on oxygen 24 hours a day.
At 4 years old, all of these?
I mean, yeah.
You're currently using a marijuana byproduct, something called CBD. Is that correct?
I am not currently using it.
Morgan?
No.
Okay.
This is what we would like to obtain. If I was able to use it, I would be breaking state and federal law.
Even though New York has legalized medical marijuana, I know it's very slowly rolling out, but it's
right. So the governor's office and the Department of Health have asked for an 18-month implementation period. Right now we're about 6 to 8 months into that, so they're telling us January of 2016 would be the earliest that Morgan would be able to start taking it.
Do you know that would work, or work better than the anti-seizure medications that you've already tried?
I don't know that, no. I like to think of it very pragmatically. Obviously, we've tried 10 things. They haven't worked. But what's more frustrating to me is the fact that we cannot access it. If we were to pack up and to move to Colorado or to move to California, we could have access within a few days. When you have one or two parents saying that this type of medication is working, you know, that's fine. It could be rumor, it could be anecdotal, but now you're having hundreds of families saying that this is really helping. So just the fact that we live in New York and we can't get it, we'd be breaking law, is very, very frustrating to me. I'm optimistic that it would help. I hope it will help.
And you've heard from other parents with kids with conditions similar to Morgan's that it has worked or that it has benefited?
Yeah. Parents are seeing not only a reduction in seizures, but they're also seeing the seizures themselves becoming less severe. And we're also, there's reports of incredible cognitive gains. Children are getting their appetites back. Children are able to not take, if a child was taking 4 seizure medications, maybe now they can take 2 seizure medications in addition to the CBD oil.
Now, one aspect of the federal bill that's being supported by Senators Gillibrand, Booker, and Rand Paul in a fairly unique combination, it doesn't just provide or make sure that there wouldn't be prosecution on the federal level. It would also reclassify the drug, which might actually encourage more research. Is that correct?
It will certainly encourage more research. I've been speaking with our neurologist for some time now about this form of treatment, and I said, what can I do to help you? And the first thing he said was, it has to be rescheduled. Right now, Schedule I substances are very hard to access in a clinical study. By rescheduling it, you'll have a lot more researchers who are able to sort of put projects forward, do research on the medicine, and that's really what we need is the medical community getting more involved in this treatment.
So the push for that federal bill is really just beginning. On the state level, you mentioned that New York is very slowly rolling out its medical marijuana program. New Jersey has been crawling along with that for years as well. Would you be encouraging state lawmakers to speed up that process or to allow additional exemptions for cases like Morgan?
I think all states would be very encouraged if they find federal government supporting them by passing this bill. I think that's part of the hesitation. I think that's part of the reason why you're seeing laws that are almost overly restrictive, is because in the back of everyone's mind, we know that on a federal level, what they're doing is illegal. So I think that we would see improvement. I don't necessarily know if it would speed it up. That's certainly my hope. But really, when we have the federal government changing their stance on this from something that has no medicinal value to now we know that it has medicinal value, that's going to make a difference on a state level.
Finally, Kate, and I hate to ask this question, but you know there are going to be people, I'm sure you've run into them, who are like, yeah, I'm sure that the Morgan's on your mind, but maybe some of this is for you or for, what do you say to people who cast that sort of a suspicious eye on a push like yours?
I invite those people to spend a day in our shoes. I invite them to come and meet my daughter. I invite them to attempt to care for her for just one day. When you see this level of suffering in a child that is having repeated seizures over and over, and all you can do is basically sit back and watch. It's absolutely heartbreaking. So, and it's not just epilepsy. It could be a loved one with cancer. It could be a loved one that's diagnosed with MS. These are all debilitating conditions, and these people are left to suffer. So, is it our first choice of medication? Definitely not. I'm not anti-pharmaceutical. I'm looking for alternative treatments that are safe to use, and that will make a difference in her life.
Kate Hintz, thank you so much, and best of luck. And Morgan, thank you so much for being here.
Say thank you.
Head to Facebook, head to Twitter, sound off on our question on medical marijuana. Do you think that your state should do more or less to make it accessible? We'll come back with some Hudson Valley headlines right after this.